They called him Honest Abe, the man who freed millions and held a broken nation together. But behind the legend was a life filled with strange twists, untold struggles, and unbelievable facts that most people never hear about. This is Abraham Lincoln, not the version written in school books, but the real man behind the myth. Here are 10 surprising facts you didn't know about Abraham Lincoln. Before Abraham Lincoln ever stepped into politics, he stepped into a wrestling ring, and he almost never lost. Standing 6'4" with long arms and enormous strength, Lincoln was known in Illinois as one of the toughest men around. According to records, he fought in around 300 matches and only lost once. Locals said he could toss grown men like rag dolls. One opponent even tried to cheat, and Lincoln stopped the fight, staring him down and saying, "I'm the big buck of this lick. If any of you want to try it, come on and wet your horns." That's right, before the presidency, before the speeches, Abraham Lincoln was basically the Dwayne Johnson of the 1800s. In 1992, the National Wrestling Hall of Fame actually honored him as an outstanding American wrestler. Lincoln wasn't just a leader, he was an inventor. In 1849, long before he entered the White House, he designed a device to lift boats over sandbars and shallow water. He filed for patent number 6469, making him the only U.S. president in history to hold a patent. He even carved a small wooden model by hand and submitted it to the patent office himself. Though it was never built for commercial use, it revealed something remarkable about him. His mind was always creating, always solving problems. For Lincoln, invention wasn't just about technology. It was about imagination and imagining something better, a quality that would later change America itself. You might think one of America's greatest presidents had a fancy education, but Abraham Lincoln had less than 1 year of formal schooling. That's right, less than a year. He grew up in poverty, often working instead of attending school. But that didn't stop him. He taught himself by reading every book he could find. Neighbors recalled seeing him walk for miles to borrow a single book, then read it by firelight late into the night. His favorites were the Bible, Shakespeare, and law books. He once said, "My best friend is a man who'll get me a book I haven't read." Lincoln's story proves something simple but powerful. Education is not what you're given, it's what you fight for. This one sends chills down your spine. Just days before his assassination, Lincoln told several people about a strange dream. He said he wandered through the White House at night and heard weeping. When he entered the East Room, he saw a covered corpse guarded by soldiers. When he asked, "Who is dead in the White House?" someone replied, "The president. He was killed by an assassin." A few days later, on April 14th, 1865, that dream became reality. He was shot at Ford's Theater by John Wilkes Booth. Whether it was coincidence or something deeper, no one knows. But the idea that Lincoln foresaw his own death remains one of the most haunting mysteries in American history. Behind the calm face and powerful speeches was a man who suffered silently. Lincoln battled severe depression for much of his life. Friends called it his melancholy. He often wrote poems about sorrow and loss, and he once said, "I am the most miserable man living." He lost his mother when he was 9. His first love and Rutledge died young. Even during his presidency, the Civil War's endless deaths weighed heavily on him. Yet, despite it all, Lincoln kept going. He never hid from his sadness. He worked through it. That quiet strength made him more human, and maybe that's what gave his words such power. His story reminds us that greatness isn't about never feeling pain. It's about never letting pain stop you. You'd expect a tall, powerful president to have a deep, booming voice. But witnesses say Lincoln's voice was actually high-pitched and nasal. At first, many people found it strange. But when he spoke, everything changed. His words carried emotion, intelligence, and honesty. Reporters wrote that his speeches cut through the air like a violin, and that his tone could shift from humor to heartbreak in seconds. During the Gettysburg Address, some said it wasn't his tone that moved them, it was his truth. It's a reminder that a powerful voice isn't about sound. It's about sincerity. Lincoln was fascinated by technology long before most politicians were. He loved gadgets, inventions, and science. During the Civil War, he often visited the telegraph office, the 1860s version of a modern situation room, to read the latest battlefield updates. He was the first president to use the telegraph as a communication weapon, sending direct orders to generals across the country. He also tested new weapons, including early versions of machine guns and submarines. To Lincoln, progress wasn't just curiosity, it was power. He saw how invention could change not only war, but the future of humanity. This one feels like fate playing tricks. Before his assassination, Lincoln's son Robert Todd Lincoln was standing on a crowded train platform in New Jersey. He slipped between the train and the platform and almost fell to his death. A man quickly grabbed him by the collar and pulled him to safety. That man's name was Edwin Booth, one of the most famous actors in America at the time. A year later, Edwin's brother, John Wilkes Booth, would assassinate President Lincoln. Two brothers. One saved the president's son. The other killed the president himself. A coincidence so chilling, it feels almost unreal. In 1876, 11 years after his death, a group of counterfeiters planned to steal Lincoln's body from his tomb in Springfield, Illinois. Their goal? To hold it for ransom and demand the release of one of their gang members. But the plan failed. A Secret Service agent had infiltrated the group and caught them in the act. After that, Lincoln's coffin was secretly moved and reburied under 10 feet of concrete and steel to make sure no one could ever touch it again. Even in death, Lincoln's story was filled with drama, danger, and legend. Of all the things Lincoln left behind, laws, buildings, statues, the most powerful gift was his words. He wrote his own speeches, often late at night by candlelight, searching for the right rhythm, the right truth. The Gettysburg Address, just 272 words long, reshaped the idea of freedom. His second inaugural address offered forgiveness instead of revenge, even after the bloodiest war in U.S. history. Lincoln believed words could heal a nation, and maybe that's why, more than 150 years later, we still quote him. Not because he ruled, but because he understood. Abraham Lincoln wasn't just a president. He was a dreamer, a fighter, a father, an inventor, a man who carried both greatness and grief in the same heart. He wrestled not just men, but his own doubts. He fought not just wars, but despair. And in the end, he left us a story that reminds us what it truly means to rise above. So the next time you see that tall, bearded face on a $5 bill, remember, behind it was a man who changed the world, not because he was perfect, but because he was human.